Right, what you've got here is the M60. That's the M60 machine gun. Yep. That was in the door of the Huey. It's based on the German MG42. If you've ever heard of an MG42 machining,
same top there.
It's the same top. Because the feed mechanism of the German MG42 or machining Gewehr 42 was that good a cyclic rate, 1200 a minute, and also it was almost unjammable. So the guy who designed it was a car body press guy, who then designed the feed system into this, and that's why, unfortunately, the British forces paid heavily, and Americans, with the MG42. However, this was a smaller rate, roughly around 500 to 600 rounds a minute. So that would be NATO ammunition. The NATO ammunition, which is 7.62 NATO. Same as a British SLR, same as the minigun. Quite a well-used round. Problem is, the M16, I think it was the M16, the Colt. There she is. This is actually a real one, I think. Yes, it is. It's been, oh no, it's a replica. That's the M16. Well, it was. It's only it's an airsoft. It's only a small round. I believe it's about 5.6 or 6 point something like that. Very small but sharp round. Very high velocity. So a lot of Americans thought the hitting power of this wasn't that good, whereas the British SLR certainly had it. You probably know that.
7.62 SLR.
Yeah, the same as that.
Range curve, you see.
Yeah. So that's the M16. I'll just set it up for this chapter video. So that's your typical Vietnam American soldier type weapon that you'd be jumping out of the Huey with. Okay, it's got a fracture in it. Right. That is the round that goes with it, 7.62. Okay, and I'll do that and gives it scale. And this is the famous Colt 1911. Would fit over there like that, clip onto a belt down there. It's actually better than that, your arm should be through, but I think you get the idea. That would be a sidearm, personal sidearm piece. 7 rounds. I haven't got the didn't bring the 45 round. If you remember the American cowboys, the Peacemaker, which was a 45, cock it, fire. This is semi-auto. Started in 1911, that's why it's called the 1911. And I believe the hitting power is far better than a 9mm. So if you shot against in the Japanese theatre in the Pacific, they found that they could pump the Japanese full of 9mm and they'd still keep coming crazed. Whereas Army fire this, not at the Loach, when you fire this, one bullet would, if it hit them anywhere, virtually gives them a moment of pause. In other words, apparently it could shut down the nervous system if it was anywhere in the torso, just for a few seconds, which is long enough. The shock wave is immense. It's a subsonic bullet, around 800, 900 feet per minute. Boom, and you could load one of these up with 7. It's the same round as the Thompson submachine gun, or the gangster Chicago piano as it was, World War II, and of course the World War II guys had these, Korea, Vietnam, and places like that. The problem is in Vietnam they rusted like hell because of the damp conditions and humidity like it is today, so a lot of them were scrapped and thrown away after Vietnam. They just got rid of them.
They not have the same problems with these?
Yeah, yeah, it was a damp atmosphere. Yeah, I think the British SLR fared a bit better. Yeah, but not much. You had to watch it. So that's your Colt 1911. Pop that there. It would, to have a sidearm like that, if you had to get out your helicopter quick, shot up, it would give you that few minutes of firepower to hopefully get you out of trouble. So, what are they going to shoot back at you with? Normally, something in the region of that. That's a Mauser round out of a Tornado, which is a 27mm Mauser round. That is similar to the Soviet rounds, which are about 30mm and going through all, like aircraft cannons or ground attack. So imagine that going through your aircraft. The thing is with it though, it is not a bullet. A bullet is obviously a solid piece of metal, you'll understand this. A full metal jacket bullet with nickel over lead, lead for weight and throw, nickel to cover it. Doesn't foul the barrel as quickly, nickel, and it keeps it more lubricated. Self-lubrication by nickel. You still have to clean the barrel, but not as bad as lead. Or lead fouling, I think you... This is different, it's a shell. You'll understand this a little bit more because that's an air-filled percussion cap. It's not a detonator. Because they found in World War II with a 20mm cannon out of a Spitfire. That's a Spitfire 20mm cannon, Hispano. That's been fired as well. Now imagine the forces here. Engineers and armourers call that the driving band. That driving band is copper, right? And that has to pass down the bore, the rifled bore. And that's the machining out it does. Imagine the forces having to do that. That's been fired into butts. Okay, so you can see the amount of forces involved there because that's machined off. Right, it's also on a helix. You can see it's sort of spinning. Yeah. What they found was if you put a percussion cap, a detonator cap on the top or a primer, it strikes the outside of the aircraft, blows a big lump in it, and nothing else. So you want to damage the system or people inside it. So what you do, you have compressed air. There. There's a little capsule in there of air, that's all there is, just air inside it. As it strikes and goes through various frames of the aircraft, it gets super compressed and detonates the charge in there. If you super compress air, it gets white hot, like a diesel engine, and sets fire. If you've heard of diesel engines, they don't have a spark plug. It just goes compression, bang, you just squirt fuel into the gap and it goes off with a bang. Because if you do that with a bike pump, fast enough it gets hot. So that's all they do. So the idea was go through a very few frames. That's it. Quite a nasty piece of work, that. It's not as heavy as it would be, there's no explosive. Let's have a look at those. Those are 20mm cannons. That is tungsten carbide, very hard, armour-piercing round. That was from a Spitfire again. That would go into an aircraft and come out the other side, taking systems out. Why do you put not a sharp point on? Simply, tungsten carbide is extremely hard, but it's also brittle. If you had a sharp point, it could shatter on impact. So you have the stiletto heel type scenario. So elephant's foot on a lino floor, elephant which makes the most impact. So all the forces are engaged on that one point, and boom. Most armour-piercing rounds do have a blunt nose, slightly, because people don't realise, because you want to spelch the inside of the tank. So if it was an armour-piercing, I think, horrible thought, but anyway, yeah, it's horrible. Then we have incendiary. That's a pretend incendiary. That's where it's been fired. They would have, that's just solid, but you would have phosphorus inside there, with a little hole there that strikes the phosphorus, and I think it burns, is it 2,000 to 3,000 degrees phosphorus?
Yeah, nasty stuff.
It is, and that would be incendiary. So that get that inside an aircraft or a fuel tank, you've really got a problem. You're getting out. If most jet fighters like the Phantom that was shot up in Vietnam were by phosphorus, they could stand a few of these, but the phosphorus ones were no. You're going to burn the aircraft out. So you can imagine that being very, very nasty. Okay. Right. So you're going to shoot back at them. Okay. So the 50 caliber. You've got a 50 cal, which is over there. If you want to have a look at the 50s, Neil normally goes and gets that. That's your 50 cal, or ½ inch. Sounds fancy, doesn't it? 50 caliber, point. Half an inch. That's all you get. That's all you get for your money. However, let me assure you, the power of this thing was more than enough. Again, you will know this, there's more than enough to cause horrendous damage, and I think the Barrett sniper rifle still uses this in the British Armed Forces. Okay? I believe there is an armour-piercing one, and it's a known fact that if they had somebody the other side of a breeze block wall in the Gulf, they come, oh, no problem, bum, 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 and you've got no breeze block wall. There you go, that's Neil carrying the 50 cal. I've seen one of those on a Land Rover, current army, in Preston, in what we call Flag Market Square, and they was doing a recruitment, and they still use that to this day.
And the Huey used to fly with them as well, but they found they were too powerful. They were actually ricocheting and hitting all the aircraft, so they backed off and went back to the M60. But they didn't try for a while. There's a picture up there of it flying. Yeah.
Just feel the weight of that?
Of course you
It's immense. You've got a bit of WD on it, mate. You may have to wash
Come
your
around my
hands.
side, because that's the ammunition box stand, you see, for the aircraft. So,
Okay.
Some weight on
so whilst
There is, isn't there?
we'll go, I just wonder what as well carry it.